of every educational institution. And this, we know, is the secret of lifelong learning. Few people know that happiness can be taught, it can be learned and practiced from a very early age. And also too, that there is no learning without well-being. And that sets the stage for our conversations today. I want to welcome the speakers. I want to welcome all of you joining us from different corners of the world. And with this, I would like to introduce our first speaker, a woman full of power, coming to us from Barranquilla in Colombia. She is the rectora at the British International School, Miss Mary Jo Gill. Welcome. Hello, Miss Mary Jo.
Hi. Thank you, Andrea.
Well, thank you. In your experience,
yeah.
Sorry, Miss Mary Jo, let me guide your question. During these unprecedented times, what do we need to prioritize when we think about parental well-being? And how does that impact on the well-being of the entire educational institution? You have 5 minutes, Mary Jo.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would really like to clarify my experience because, you know, I come from schools. I've always worked in schools. I was a teacher for many years. Then I became a head of school in the United Kingdom. And then I went to work in Mexico. And after that, I'm now working in Colombia on the Caribbean coast. And I'm the head of school or rectora of a very, very large private British international school in Colombia. And so I have experience of working with lots of different groups of people connected to schools. But I think it's worth starting and saying that, and let me just check the time, just go over. But basically, let me just start by saying that I really believe that it's a little bit like the oxygen in the aeroplane. If the people who are looking after the children are feeling that they have well-being, and if there's harmony between those people and the school, then there can be unity and connection within that educational community, okay? So if we look at schools as they are, schools are actually very bureaucratic institutions in business terms. In fact, the school I work in at the moment is obviously it's a business, and in that respect, we see the people who are connected to our school as our stakeholders. And really, you know, in order to remain competitive as a school, we have to look after our stakeholders. So how do we do that? Well, most schools are very, very good at looking after their students. But, you know, not every school has a strategy or a very strong strategy at including and collaborating with their main stakeholders and their main clients, and that is the parents, the parents of those students and the parents at that school. So basically, I want to look at how it is really important to work with parents and to get their honest feedback. And actually, I'm going to be giving you an example of how I've done that in the school that I'm working at the moment and in other previous schools that I've worked in the past. So what we want is we want to have a comfortable relationship with parents, because if we don't have a comfortable, friendly relationship with parents, then obviously we're in a defensive situation. So when I arrived at the school that I'm working in now, and it's a large school for children aged 3. How long, sorry?
1 minute, please.
Thank you. Just 1 minute left.
I believe so. Oh, it's 5 together, 1 minute left, so you can wrap up comfortably.
Okay.
Thank you.
So basically what we did is we set up a parents' parliament where parents could come to the parliament and actually resolve the problems that they saw themselves having as a group of parents. Okay, so basically instead of allowing parents to just complain, we said no, come into a parliament, and we chose one parent from each year group, and within that year group we looked at how parents could actually resolve some of the issues they felt they had. So for example, we set up parental induction for new parents coming into the school, and parents looked at how they could better help other parents to understand the communications also coming from the school. So the way in which we dealt with the lack of collaboration that existed in the school when I arrived is we set up a group of parents who collaborated with us, and it wasn't a parents consejo, if you like. It wasn't a parents' council. It was a completely different type of group that looked at solving the type of problems that parents feel they have as a group at a school.
Miss Mary Jo, you're always so innovative in the way that you create these interventions. And we thank you for giving us that bit to take back home with us, back to our schools and back to our communities. The parliaments, the parent parliaments, amazing. I want to welcome our next speaker, Miss Gabriela Gonzalez Pacheco from Mexico City. She's the Director of Programs at Whole Schools International. Gabriela, please, could you ground us a little bit today and give us a definition of well-being? What does that sound like? What does that look like? And why is well-being to be something that drives the programs in our schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
I'll ring the bell for you, babe, so you don't have to stress. The bell
Don't worry.
1 minute countdown. All right, sweetie, go ahead. We're
right,
listening.
thank you. Well, first of all, I think we should be a little bit clear about what we talk about when we're saying well-being. And when we talk about well-being, we're talking about the level of satisfaction that people have with their lives. And not just that, but also how in control they feel with their lives, their level of happiness, their sense of purpose. And that's something that unfortunately is been in great difficulty, because let me give this statistics. When Andrea was saying, why should it be so important in the programs in schools and for that to be the focus of education, is because globally, more than 264 million people of all ages suffer from depression. These are statistics that the World Health Organization has given us, and we know that 1 in 6 of those 264 million are aged 10 to 19-year-olds. So we're talking about the students in our schools. And suicide has become the third leading cause of death in 15 to 19-year-olds range. That speaks of a great problem. And then if we frame it into the COVID situation and the pandemic, and we saw an increase of these situations, anxiety, depression, behavioral problems, and we then realized that this has to be at the core of schools. This is something that is not new for schools. We've known it for many years. It's been coming. We understood now how academics cannot be the core of school and education. It has to be an emphasis on well-being, because well-being enables the learning process. Without that process, then we do have a difficulty. And that's why many schools throughout these years have been developing curriculums and programs and instruments for assessment in order to realize if students are getting that well-being throughout the curriculum that the school is working. And I love the way Mary Jo said it, is like that oxygen mask that we need to make sure that it's placed first, and then worry about the academic progress and the grades and all of these things. So yes, when we talk about education, we can say that this is something that is urgent. Not only in education, obviously, but education as a way to work in society towards a betterment and to guide it, definitely. No? And that's why the OECD has created this program, Compass, 2030, where they're talking about what should be our learning compass. And within those skills has mentioned, how we need to help kids work with their social emotional skills and handle this and prepare them for them to be able to thrive and guide the world and society towards where it needs to be. So yes, definitely it is something that we need to keep in mind and that we need to work very carefully towards and create spaces of dialogue in order to make sure that all of us are on the same page. Unfortunately, schools have been very slow in adapting to societal change. And just because we know this, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing what we need to do as far as policy, as far as academic curriculums, as far as preparation for teachers who are going to be guiding students through these difficult times. So yes, I think this is something that we do need to focus on. and find the resources that are already out there. Thankfully, internationally, there are many resources that now schools can take advantage of and prepare themselves to face this challenge. I think I took even less than the 5 minutes. Am I right? How am I with time?
Yeah, you're with time. You're great. I gave you the bell. Did you hear the bell? Because I'm worried I'm ringing
I
the bell and
didn't.
people aren't hearing the bell, and then I'm cutting you off. Okay.
No.
Apologies. Great job. And thank you for grounding us. Sometimes well-being is something so intangible that having put it into words makes a lot of sense for all of us in the audience. Gabriela, thank you. And let's now welcome our speaker number 3, Miss Marjan Harbison from Panama City. She's a leader and coach in the wellness lifestyle movement, as also in yoga practice. And hello, Marjan. Welcome to the WEF. In your experience, Marjan, how can we create harmony between the teaching, the learning, and the wellness or the well-being component that we are so prizing at this time in education?
Thanks, Andrea. Thank you. I think right now, to create a harmony with teaching, learning, and well-being, we have to develop an understanding that teaching and learning is not just about the mind and academics, but it's about creating a connection to the body, the heart, the breath, and the mind. And when we have a synergy and a connection with all of these aspects, we have greater well-being, we have greater individual growth, and we have greater individual development. For example, when we can create connection to our heart space, we can really discover what creates curiosity within us, what our passions are, what our desires are, what our intentions are. So really creating an awareness around these aspects, curiosity, passion. When we create a connection to the body, we start to nurture it and nourish it through movement, various types of movement, through nutrition, through sleep patterns. And then when we create an awareness around the breath, we really start to develop that connection with the body, with the heart, and with the mind. So connecting to all of these aspects really allows for greater expansion in the mind, for deeper insights, deeper knowledge, greater intuition. So I think creating awareness around mindfulness practices and techniques is how you can really create this harmony, this synergy with teaching and learning and well-being. So there's many practices that you can incorporate. There's different techniques, different movement techniques. There's so many different mindfulness techniques. And I think I have time to introduce one to you right now, Andrea.
Yes,
and this is just the repetition of, this would be the repetition of affirmation. And this is an affirmation technique that I have learned many years ago and worked with children, but it's just as powerful with adults. And it's very simple. The affirmation is, peace begins with me. And you can use your hands. So we create this awareness with our hands in the body. And with every word, we tap the thumb. Peace with the index finger and the thumb. Begins, middle finger and thumb. With, ring finger and thumb. Me, pinky finger and thumb. So we'll just do this a few times together, but just first take a moment and just sit comfortably in your seat. Place your hands in your lap with the palms turned up and just sit tall. When we sit tall through the spine, it allows us to deepen our breath and create a deeper awareness with the breath, with the vehicle of the breath. And so we'll just repeat this together 6 times. Peace begins with me. 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 So just notice how you feel. So that invites a very calming, peaceful energy into the heart. It allows us to soften and deepen the breath. It brings the awareness into the posture of the body, and it brings an ease and peace into the mind. So just notice that after you repeat that affirmation. So really creating awareness around the heart, the body, the breath, and the mind is going to create greater potential for growth, for development, and for learning.
Lovely, Marjan. Thank you so much for allowing us to explore some of this area, this dimension of awareness. It's super important. I love the way you talk about synergy, and I love too how you alluded to the 4 dimensions of well-being, starting with the physical, driving then what we know as academic well-being, and it will ground it in that. I thank Gabriela too for talking about the social and emotional component, and I know that now Yogita has something special in store for us in terms of the social relations and that connective piece, that synergy that we need between our social and emotional connection at our heart center to connect through learning. Yogita, welcome. Speaker number 4. Thank you for joining us all the way from India, and also to a huge thank you to you for coming on board our time zone. I know it is not the same time where you are now. Ms. Yogita Hula is from Storytelling I Nurture Me in India. And Yogita, I have a driving question for you. Considering the new normal, Yogita, considering the new realities under which our students and our teachers are going to be learning and teaching from, Yogita, how do you think that storytelling, which is the magic that you have brought to all of us, the magic that you teach, how do you think that storytelling can enhance the human connection, can strengthen well-being, and build, get this, build the skills for the 21st century learner? Because we know those are all about curiosity, creativity, just problem solving, and just higher order thinking, critical thinking. So tell us a bit about you and about storytelling connection piece.
Sure. Thank you, Andrea. I'd like to begin with quoting Margaret Atwood. Long time ago, she said that you are never going to kill storytelling because it's built in the human plan. We come with it. So whether it was the 15th or the 14th century learner or teacher, or today in 21st century, or in the future, storytelling has been and it will always remain one of the crucial skills to enable learning, communication, connection, and well-being. Now, research has also proven with enough evidence that the human brain is hardwired for stories and storytelling. Normally, when we teach through facts, only 2 parts of the brain get activated, which is the Broca's and the Wernicke's area, which is the language processing part of the brain. However, when we tell a story around the same topic filled with visual, sensory, physical descriptions, multiple parts of our brain get activated. For example, the visual cortex, the sensory cortex, motor cortex, and of course the language processing parts of the brain too. Additionally, what also happens in the brain is there are different hormones that get released, primarily the one called oxytocin, which is also called as the trust hormone. And that hormone is responsible for making the listeners connect not just with the story characters, but also with the storyteller, and in our case, the storytelling teacher. So that promotes bonding, trust, and becomes the foundation of enhancing the teacher-child as well as the children's relationship amongst themselves. Let me give you an example here. Since we are mixing the socio-emotional as well as learning together. As a teacher, for example, I would like to help my class children learn about the concept of motion and gravity. Now, I could share all of this information in the science chapter about through meaning, definition, and how gravity works. Vis-a-vis, I can simply start the chapter with a little story about a rabbit named Conejito, who went up the hill to spend his summer vacation with his tia Monica. And when he had to come back home, come down the hill, he just felt too lazy and told tia Monica that I feel too lazy to walk all the way down. So tia Monica actually made a plan, and she put little Conejito in a wooden barrel and rolled it down from the hill. How? Rolando, 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 Rolando. And bump, the barrel bumps into Mother Conejito. And when mommy Conejito takes him out, he's like, "What are you doing in the barrel?" And Conejito sings, "I have an auntie, my tia Monica. And then she got me rolling, and then she got me rolling, and I am home, mama, and I am home, mama." Now, were you able to imagine the hill, visualize that? Were you able to imagine Conejito rolling down the mountain? Feel the happiness within your body when you sang along with me. If you could feel a bit of it all even in this environment, imagine children are going to feel it even more. And go ahead now, after you've told them the story, tell them about more about motion, gravity, etc., etc. You have already been able to get their attention so that they are able to grasp the concept better, and they also become happy learners who feel positive about the teacher, the concept, and also about the community, the co-learners. So you see, this with this just one example, I have so much more that I can, I can share so much more, but I guess the point is stories are strongly rooted in our psychology, and they have stood the test of time, isn't it? And that's why, the stories go back in time from the times we used to live in caves. So my last word, given these unprecedented times, schools, parents, and families should create a time and space together to share personal stories with their children and students of resilience, of how they tide over tough times in the past, which will result in building bonding, resilience, security, and well being in their children, and they would be stronger to face adversities coming their way. If leveraged well, storytelling is a magical tool to strengthen well being and learning, and more so in times like these, which are so tough on children. So, those are my closing words. So, thank you very much. I hope I've not exceeded the time.
Thank you, Yogita. Not at all. I didn't even ring the bell. I was so immersed in your storytelling, and this is the magic of that. It is an innovative way of teaching. However, it isn't new. It's come and been passed down throughout the centuries and throughout our history as being humans and belonging to our own kind. And now we need to bring it to the forefront and really make sure that we're connecting to our students, to their heart center, and making learning authentic and significant and personal. So thank you for illustrating how we can even learn about science, about physics, about friction, and about happiness through storytelling, and engage our students, because what are we in learning if we're not thinking about well-being, which is the larger umbrella of our conversation today. And I want to take this moment, since we've been so great with time, this powerful audience of stunning, brilliant, intelligent, and powerful women, and throw it back to you, ladies. I want to give you this time. If you felt that I cut you off too soon, Miss Mary Jo, I apologize. And I give you back to you now. Maybe give us a few words or hints as to how you would ground this leadership well-being, as you have led so many communities internationally, in the UK, all over Latin America. What is your advice in going forward? How do we begin? What is the first step to take?
I mean, I loved listening to Yogita, because actually it really did ring true with me. My main advice would be always look at relationships. When I'm having to talk to a parent about something difficult, they come into my office, and the first thing I say to them is, before we start, I just want you to know that we're friends. And that's really important. We need to behave in a friendly way to others, and we need to build very, very good relationships. So that would be my main piece of advice to anybody looking to bring about harmony and unity, connection, collaboration within any group. I think it works for any age group. It certainly does work in large school environments also. So absolutely, that would be my main advice. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Absolutely.
How beautiful. And how could we have gone without hearing your closing remarks? Just so brilliant and so filled with intuition. I have had the good fortune to work with side by side Miss Mary Jo Gill, and I am thankful that she is here today guiding us and inspiring us. I'm going to now throw it back out to all our other ladies in the panel and take this opportunity for other closing remarks. Please do not go with your last words. Miss Gabriela, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
I raised it. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think following along with what Mary Jo said, is a question of community. No, I think if we think about the challenges that we're facing as a society right now, and we think about what we as women can contribute with, and that's something about social interactions. We're very good at building relationships and creating communities, and I think the only way for us to move forward and guard the well-being of everyone, students, adults, women, men, all of us that form part of a society, has to do with creating communities of support and striving for that well-being.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. And to honor our other two guests and honorable speakers, Ms. Merjan, do you have a 1-minute closing remark? A message to the audience? You are muted, dear. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. I think my message is that, especially in these unprecedented times, bring in practices to create connection to other aspects other than the mind, the body, movement practices, to the heart. Start journaling, ask questions like, how do I feel? How do I want to feel? What do I want to get curious about? And also really bring in practices to connect with the breath. The breath is really going to create that harmony and synergy between all of these aspects that will keep us really grounded and at ease during these times.
Thank you, Merjan, for reminding us. Sometimes we just forget to breathe, and that's the simplest thing and simplest form of engaging with our core, with our inner self. Ms. Yogita, 1 last minute for you, dear. Unmute yourself, please. We can't hear your beautiful voice.
So thank you, Andrea, and to all our listeners who are the school teachers, school leaders, children and parents, please create, I would once again reiterate that please create time and space for having story circles. So these days have it online where you have the parent community, the children and the teachers coming together and sharing stories with each other, not just tell stories to children, but also listen to their stories, because when they share, a lot of insecurity just starts to melt away. So in the end, I would want all of us to, remind ourselves of the power of touch. So what if we can't physically hug our students and our children? We can all actually do a virtual hug. So I would like each one of us to actually give each other a virtual hug and just make this community feel present here right in this moment. So
Thank you, Yogita. We can feel the love. How
you just need
important is the quality of touch, and how that really reminds us that we are human, made of flesh and bone, and we do have a spirit and a soul, and we do have a mind, and we do have a heart, and that our bodies, when all of that is aligned and comes together, thank you, Merjan, for portraying that so clearly today, then we are one. And yes, we are one. And today, as we are one, I want to take this last minute to thank the WEF, to thank Dr. Harbeen Aurora, who has inspired this worldwide global movement of women, empowering women, enabling change. And I want to thank Miss Michelle Ferrari at this time. She's not only the president and founder of the WEF in Iberoamerica, but she is also my sister. And guess what? You are all my soul sisters. We are all soul sisters. And the message to the sisterhood today is, today more than ever, we need to, embrace each other. We need to empower each other. We need to take care of ourselves, but we also need to take care of our colleagues. And we need to look upon each other to strengthen our areas of fortitude as we lead and we teach unto others. We need to unify, and we need to look for opportunities of growth. I am so thankful and grateful for this time today. And also too, I want to leave you with one last sentiment, which is, if the WEF is inspiring such change, well, why not all of us together? Let's be the change that we want to see in the world, as in the words of our great teacher, Mahatma Gandhi. Let's not lose sight of education, and let's educate. Let's educate for a lifetime. Let's transform education and educate our children for a new world. Yes, for a new world. These are unprecedented times, and we are pioneers leading the way into a new paradigm that we have so long asked for, that we have so long craved for in education. Today, this is our opportunity. In every adversity, there is the seed of creativity. Let's use that and go forward. And I embrace you, my sisters. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your genius. You are studying genius women's brilliant women. We love you. Namaste.